And this is another re-upload or re-recording of a problem that happened. This recording also didn't happen to have sound, and I never noticed it until I rechecked everything. Thankfully, this one didn't get uploaded, so we can do this one once more. Once more with gusto, once more with feeling. Huh? So, this is Redux running on React to make an application. And in this case, we have a very simple application that's running in Redux. So we have our beans, we have 0 cans of beans. We have no cans, right? So we can buy some beans. I now have 1 can of beans. Buy some more beans. 2 cans, 3 cans, 4 cans. I can buy beans at Costco. And now I have 14 cans of beans. Amazing. I can now eat some beans. Every time you eat beans, you consume a can of beans, a whole can. And then you can have a bean barbecue. This is where it consumes 10 cans. So you go to Costco to get your 10 cans of beans so you can go have yourself bean barbecues. And you can go ahead and eat some beans and buy some beans, go to Costco a few times and throw a few barbecues for your friends and family. And if we click the login button here, the beans are there, the beans are you, the beans are me. Succumb to the bean, become the bean, Heinz baked beans. All right, so what's special about this? Well, in this particular case, we are running our, we're running, let's see, I'm trying to remember. This should be the one, yeah? No, this is the code we need to go to. So this is the application right here. We have our application, and we have our index.js. And you can see we have our provider providing a store. So what's happening is that instead of having everything in React, we're actually putting in our actions and our reducers, or we're putting our actions separate from our code, and we're dispatching the action in the code, which then goes through a reducer. And in certain cases, depending on what the reducer is, it'll say in the case of increment, it'll take our current state, which is just the amount of beans that we have, plus the action payload, because there is a payload value of 1 for one of them and 10 for the other. And then you say we have a decrement. So we have state minus action payload. Here we have the value, which is our payload of 10 or 1, and we're subtracting that from our state. And then when we start off, we return the state. Our default state is 0. Pretty self-explanatory. We also have our login reducer here. So we have our state equaling false. And when we sign in, we return the state. The state, but the opposite of the state, as indicated by the exclamation point. Otherwise, we just return state. This is so that we can go ahead and once we log in, it goes from false to true, and we have our message display here. You could also include a button that also dispatches the case sign in, and it returns the same opposite of state, which one would set state to false, meaning that that the text would no longer display. This is all combined in the reducers here, and all reducers here in this index. And then when this is pulled in, we can see that should be in our index. We import all reducer from reducers, and it's just going to take it from index.js, which is fantastic. And that's basically it. You can even see here in the app.js, we have a function component, and that's all this really is. It's just one function component. And we have our buttons where on click, we are just messing with our state. Pretty quick, pretty easy, self-explanatory. So now we're going to get into something a little more in depth that I've built here, also using Redux. This one does not involve numbers. This is called drifting thoughts, or drifting stars, excuse me. This was an application that I heard of existing, but under a different name. I couldn't find this application, and whenever I would go to a link that said, oh, the application is here, well, it wasn't there. So I don't know what was going on. So I decided, I can make this myself. This isn't too hard. And really, looking back, it wasn't so hard. So, what you do, so this is sort of an app that you would play with if you are having trouble sleeping because you're worried about something. So let's type in something like, My dog ate my homework. We're going to send that thought in there. What else can we type in? Let's say, oh, I don't know, standard things that people would say in that they're worried about. And you could even say something along the lines of anything as simple as this. Or maybe you're traveling away from home and you can type in, I miss grandma. And we can hit clear thoughts, and your thoughts go away. That is the entire purpose of the app. There's no backend to this. But we can see here we are once again running our app.js here. Not the app.js, our index.js. Don't mind that. And you can see that we are having our provider come in. We have an all reducer from slash reducers, obviously. So if we go to reducers index, we are combining only one reducer here, but this means that if I want to add another reducer, I want to add more features, I can just throw this into the all reducers, and now my boilerplate here is making things code a little faster. The biggest disadvantage to Redux is there's a lot more boilerplate, but once you get it set up, then it's easy to add more features and functionality. It's a lot easier. It's a lot easier to do that. So we see in our reducer here, we have our text box reducer. Now this is interesting. We have constant initial user state, which is just an array. We're just setting the initial user state. We have our state is going to be initial user state, which is this constant here, and that's going to be constant every time you start up. Our default is that we return the state. We have in the case of add, we spread operator to state, and then array, state, array, concat. Now, if we did state, array, push, then for some odd reason, JavaScript finds it appropriate to then return a numerical value. And if you try to map an integer, so if you have an integer of 1, and you try to map that integer, JavaScript looks at you like you're weird. So what we do with concat is that we take our state array, we concat our action payload, because action payload is going to give it another array. So what we're doing is that we're smashing those two arrays together, and it works. The next thing we have is a case clear. We return the state, and we just override the state to say array is just a blank array. And that's all that's really happening here. We can also see in here we have a subcomponent, I like to call it. We have our component of box. This is where you would be typing in your thoughts, or rather, no, the box is where you see, wait a minute, which one is that again? Yes, so this is where you have a text area, and this is where you type in your thoughts right here. And if we go into our window.js, this is the window that peeks into all of your, it peeks into all the thoughts that you've typed in, and then it'll disappear when you hit clear. In fact, we have our clear thoughts button here, and we have array map words goes into a message, words, message. And message is right here. Again, very simple. This is nothing crazy. It probably doesn't even need to extend the component here, but we have it that way just because in this case. And as we can see, this is a very simple application that does very simple work. And while yes, there is some, and that's the thing, it's got boilerplate. It's got a lot of boilerplate, but it means that you get to add more features a lot easier, even if it may take a little longer than if you didn't have this. But it's much easier, and the time that you end up saving is figuring out how you implement the feature. So while you may be doing a little more coding in the front, you'll be doing less coding and error solving at the end of the day. This is the reason why I'm going to be using Redux with my Nuclei project because you can not only use this for keeping things separate and keeping a single source of truth, but you can also make sure that you're doing everything correctly every time and it saves you on errors, I think. For smaller projects like these are more or less to test it out. But for a larger project like what I'm working on, this is an excellent application of Redux. Again, longer setup time, but it'll be faster to implement features in the future. Thank you for watching and have a wonderful day.